The 6th edition of Chess.com's PogChamps tournament has been underway for some time now, and it's pretty safe to say it's been the most underwhelming of its kind. For those who don't know, PogChamps is basically a chess tournament hosted on Twitch where streamers, influencers, or celebrities who wouldn't normally play chess compete in a World Cup format. There has been nowhere near as much promotion for the event as previous years, and it's very clear Chess.com aimed to host a more laid-back tournament in comparison to other years. Don't get me wrong, there are still some huge names in this tournament, just not as big as previous years. So it doesn't surprise me that something other than the roster has taken the headlines in terms of this tournament. Dr. Lupo, who was competing in the PogChamps tournament, has just admitted to cheating in his game against Wolfey on Twitter. We'll go through his apology in just a second, but first, let's quickly run through the game he actually played and cheated in. Before we do start, I think it's worth mentioning that Dr. Lupo said the way that he cheated was that he had the commentary stream open and he was just listening to what the commentators were saying and he was playing those moves, which I completely believe. I think that as a 600 rated player, it's actually quite difficult to cheat on stream and get away with it. I think that you would need to have some kind of browser extension up that your stream can't see. You can't really have an analysis board up and put moves into the analysis board and then onto your board. It would be way too obvious and people would catch on very quickly. So I do think that's how he was cheating. And for what it's worth, I think he was cheating from move one. I think I've gone through this game, of course, before recording this, and in my opinion, it's pretty clear that he was just, maybe he had an opening laid out for him, but it was pretty obvious that he was cheating from move one because he just knew way too much theory for someone of this elo range. So it starts with e4, e5, knight f3, and knight c6. This is probably the most common opening ever in chess. And he goes with the Ponziani opening, which is c3, planning to expand in the center with d4. His opponent plays knight f6, and I'm not going to, say it every time a move is played, but until a certain move that I'll mention, he is playing the top engine move every time. Like, this is just perfect theory. He's playing the top engine line, which for someone of 600 elo and someone that hasn't had a lot of time to prepare is probably just not a thing. You just don't really remember this much theory. He pretty much goes 10, 12 moves of theory before he does blunder. And I think his blunder was actually just him listening to the commentators wrong. If I had to guess, I'm not entirely sure, but that would be my guess. So after knight f6, he expands in the center with d4, and after takes, white just has a really big center. And the top engine line is to take, of course. White will have a little bit of counterplay after takes. For example, if knight takes here, you're going to get tempo on the knight that is in the middle of the board. You're going to castle very quickly. You're just going to get a lot of activity in exchange for that pawn. It's called the Yanish counterattack. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But his opponent doesn't take this free pawn and plays a very 1400 level move, which is just bishop d6, just blocking in the bishop. Overall, not a great move, but Wolfey is 1300 and hasn't had a lot of time to prepare here. So, I mean, you can't really fault it. In this position, bishop d3 is the top engine move. There are a lot of good moves here for white. White is already winning just because this move is not amazing. I think, bishop d6 is just not the best move. It's not even one of the okay moves. E takes, knight takes are all good moves. There's also d5 that you can play. Bishop d6 is not really one of those moves. So bishop d3 is played, and already white is +1 here. For those that aren't really familiar with chess evaluations, +1 basically means that the engine thinks that you are going to have a pawn's advantage sometime in the future that black simply cannot defend against if both players play the perfect moves. So it doesn't always necessarily mean that, one player is extremely better. It just means if you handed the games over to computers, white would win, basically. But we can continue here. They take in the center. That's a fine move. Castling was the best move, but d takes e is always going to be a fine move. It forces white to do something, and c takes d is going to be the best way to recapture. You don't really want to take back with the knight. You want to take back and control more central space with your pawns. So c takes d4 is played here, and then bishop b4 check is the top engine move from black. You just want to step out of this fork on e5, which Wolfey saw. It's a pretty simple tactic that you would expect a 1300 elo player to find. So he checks. Knight c3 is going to be the best move. Again, if knight c3 and you take, you want to take towards the center in chess, so you can maybe bring that pawn forward and control more central space than you did before. So taking towards the center is always going to be good. In this case, Wolfey doesn't play bishop takes. You also want to keep your bishops on the board, and instead plays d6, opening up this bishop, which is just a logical move. It's always going to be a good move, preparing to develop some pieces. And in this position, the best move is to castle, which Dr. Lupo finds. So already we've played 8 moves of Perfect Theory. These are all top engine lines. They're not crazy hard to find, but I just, a 600 elo rated player, unless he's actually not 600 elo, I would just think that it's at least a little bit suspicious. I don't think you can say 100% that he was cheating out of the opening, but I think you can maybe say it's somewhat likely at least. Bishop g4 is played by Wolfey, which is a fine move as well. There are this pressure over on the dark squares and this pin on the knight. So this knight cannot move anymore because it would blunder the queen behind it. So knight d5, this is kind of the move that I thought was weird. I thought that, okay, up until move 8, which was white castling, I think that all of those moves you could maybe stumble upon. You could maybe kind of figure those out for yourself, and you've just had a good opening, you got a bit lucky, you played the natural moves. I think knight d5 is not a natural move, and it's the reason that I think that maybe he was cheating straight out of the opening and he didn't start cheating midway through, because knight d5 is just not a natural move. I mean, you are attacking this bishop, but after takes and takes, you're doubling your pawns, which players usually want to stay away from, and you've got to find some difficult tactics for a 600. I know people watching this video that usually watch my videos won't think that this is a difficult tactic, but you've got to put yourself in this perspective of a 600. You probably don't find that queen a4 is going to be opened up because the knight moves and you're going to win the bishop. You probably just don't see all of that. So the move knight d5 is very, very unnatural for a 600 in my opinion. And I think a move like a3, a move like h3 is probably what the standard 600 is going to play. So in this position, knight d5 is played, and after takes, the move knight takes d4 is played, which we've gotten to a point, we've played 10 moves of Perfect Theory for the white pieces, and I think Dr. Lupo might have just misheard the commentators. Maybe he also just decided that he was going to play on his own now. I'm not sure what he thought. But he plays knight takes, and he blunders his queen. We spoke about this pin before. The queen is now just fully hanging, and black can just take it for free. There's not much, there's not much to it. That's a free queen, and now black is winning. You can see the evaluation bar. The evaluation says that black is going to win the game now. Of course, if you're a queen up, that is going to be the case. So Wolfey just takes the free queen. He's a 1400. He should see a free queen. But now we kind of get to a very weird spot. And I think if all of this happened and all of that opening happened on its own, you wouldn't think anyone's cheating. If Dr. Lupo just went on to win the game in a normal fashion, or even he blundered later, he blundered here, and Wolfey went on to win the game, you would think nothing of it. That opening alone is not proof that anyone was cheating. I just want that to be very clear. But it's what followed, and there's a whole bunch of moves that follow here. And we're going to quickly go through a lot of them because a lot of it is just shuffling around. So bishop e5 check is the first move, which is the best move. I think already that's a little difficult to see because it's an in-between move for a 600. Usually you would just take the free bishop. The king moves over to f8, and now you capture the rook. That's a pretty high-level move, an in-between move for a 600. Again, it's not anything crazy, but it is, for the rating, quite a good move. The bishop goes back to c5, attacking the knight. Of course, black wants to trade down here. And they find b5, a pawn sacrifice that is the best move. That's an impressive move to find. Of course, if something like this, you will just take, and white is getting a little bit more developed. This is still fine for black, though. I would say a natural move would just to be not to trade. As white, down a queen, you don't want to trade your pieces, especially a knight, a very unpredictable piece. You want to bring this knight back. That's what I would do in this position. I would not be thinking of sacrificing a pawn, even at my level. So the fact that a 600 has found b4 is kind of crazy. So b4, they take the free pawn. If I was black, I probably would have taken the free knight. But then rook d3. Rook d3 is one of the top engine moves. There's several moves that are all -3 for black, so, he found one of them. Rook d3 is a good move, though. a6 is a good move. Just kicking the bishop back. The bishop will route back to here, maybe back to one of these squares to get more in the game. And b5 is played by black, again kicking the bishop back, and he finds bishop c2. A lot of players will play bishop b3 here. but I think bishop b3 just stares into its own pawn and kind of invites this pressure of a5, a4 at some stage later. So bishop back to c2, even though it does stare into your own rook, you're going to move the rook anyway. So I think this is a good move from white. Again, a little bit too good of a move maybe, but it is a good move. Bishop c2 is played. Wolfey plays queen e7, just trying to get the queen into the game. Maybe the wrong kind of move. You kind of want to maybe play something like g6, something to get the other pieces into the game, because you don't want your queen to be doing all the work. And rook e3 is a great move, a natural move as well. I'm not going to say anything about this move. You're just hitting the queen. You also want to get this bishop open. It was kind of your plan. So rook e3 is a very normal move. The queen comes to f6, putting a lot of pressure here, but you've got this very simple move, bishop b2, another natural move, kind of the only move in the position. Putting pressure on this queen, you're actually now threatening knight e6 check. And if the queen takes, you take with the pawn. And if the pawn takes, you take with the bishop. So we can put it on the board here. Let's say h6 was played, check. We're seeing this piece now. If you take, we take. So this is a really nice tactic that is kind of available here. Wolfey sees it, goes queen g5. Queen g5 doesn't threaten anything. It kind of allows white to stack up. I would think that rook, bringing the rook over here is probably the most natural move. I think anyone around my rating in low time would probably just bring the rook over. Oh, sorry, there's a bishop there. I don't know what I'm talking about. Clearly, Dr. Lupo is a better player than me because he found rook g3 and didn't hang his rook. I forgot this bishop was here. My apologies. Rook g3 just hitting the queen. Not the best move in the position. Also not the worst. It's the second top engine move. There is very little difference between that and h4, which, I mean, if he played h4, just sacrificing a pawn, that would be insane. But he plays rook g3. Sacrificing a pawn this way instead of queen takes d5 is a very good move. And now bishop b3 opens up, and you're hitting the queen, and you're hitting this f7 square that is, you know, very dangerously lurking around the black king. So if you can aim your pieces, I mean, this bishop's not doing a whole lot looking at h7. It'll do a whole lot more if it's on b3 looking at f7. So bishop b3 is played. The queen comes back again. Knight c2 is a crazy move. Unlocking this attack on the g7 square, but a backwards knight move for an amateur player. If you don't play chess, that might mean nothing to you, but amateur players really don't like backwards knight moves. They kind of like moving their knights forwards. It seems counterproductive to move something backwards. Maybe you go f3 instead. Knight f3 is a much more natural move to play, but knight c2 is kind of a crazy move to find, in my opinion. Knight c2 also allows the rook to go to e1. Oh, sorry, the bishop's here. I keep missing this bishop. What am I doing? Okay, let's move on. f6 is played. Wolfey does see this threat, which is very good. I think you expect Wolfey to see threats like this. He's 1400 again. I know I keep saying that, but he is a decent player. He's not a crazy good player by any means, but he is still a decent player. So f6 is played. Rook e3 again. We're going and taking control of this file. The queen goes back to g6, and you can see what happened to the evaluation. So we were at -4, we were at -5 before. Dr. Lupo has played so many good moves in a row that it's not even -1. You know, if you gave this position to two engines, the engine might not even be able to win for black. I mean, a good engine against a bad engine will win for black, but a bad engine versus a good engine just will draw. Like, that's how good this position has gotten for white in comparison to what it was when it first lost the queen. So queen g6 is played. Knight takes b4 is the best move, of course. The rook comes to e8. You don't really want to trade off this rook. Maybe rook g3. There's other moves. Rook f3 is a good move too. Rook g3, temple and the queen. Not a crazy move. You don't want to trade the rooks in a position like this. The queen comes back. Now threatening checkmate, by the way. So you've got to kind of watch out for this checkmate threat. The bishop comes back and defends the square. Well, doesn't come back. It goes forward to defend the e1 square. Of course, if you left it, the queen would sacrifice itself. The rook would take, and then this rook would take, and that would be back rank checkmate. So he has to defend that square with bishop c3. Again, a5 is played. A decent move, but you can see already white has kind of gotten back the advantage, or not gotten back the advantage, but it's even. It's -0.2, which may as well be 0. An engine cannot convert a 0.2 advantage. So if you gave this position to the engines, white would draw 100% of the time. So a5 is played, the knight goes forward. Now you're threatening to take on c7. A5 is a good move, but knight takes c7 is a great intermezzo, and this is hanging, but so is this. So they move their rook around. Of course, the best move is to play this and let your rook die. But you actually need to play this intermezzo of b2 here, and black would be winning. If Wolfey found that move, maybe I would be suspicious of both players. That's a really good intermezzo move as well. But that wasn't what was played. They try to counterattack this, and they see, okay, there's two pieces on the same file. This feels like a very good move. Unfortunately, there is this crazy good move in this position, and maybe a crazy fortunate move in this position, of bishop d5. All of the pieces kind of harmoniously working together. If you can believe it, only one piece in this position is hanging, and that's the knight. Everything is defended by kind of everything, and nothing is hanging by some miracle. And now Wolfey is, sorry, not Wolfey, Dr. Lupo was +4 on evaluation, which is just crazy. A 600 to be finding these moves. All of these moves have been the best move, by the way. Maybe I'm not mentioning that enough. All of these moves have been the best move. It's why people were so suspicious of this game. Queen e5 was played. The queen is now trapped also. There's not really anywhere that the queen can go. If you go somewhere like queen here, I mean, you're just going to have a raging attack on. The rook is going to come to this square. So the queen kind of has to sacrifice itself. It doesn't really, but the game is well and truly over by now. So Wolfey does sacrifice his queen. And that's the move that does it for me. This knight e6 check move is the move that does it for me, because I feel any legitimate low-rated player takes this queen. It's a free queen. I don't know anyone like on apart from grandmasters and like very high-rated players, I would take the queen. It's just a free queen. Like, sure, it's not the best move, but it's still +6. It's such a safe move to play. Playing something like this, allowing your bishop to hang two ways. I know it's a check, but it's just not a move I feel you find. Especially when you can just take with the queen and then you take with the rook. It just seems a little bit counterproductive. So he checks. King e7 is played, the rook checks on g7, and we very, very quickly get into a position where eventually he does take the queen, but the black king is just swarmed. There's nothing the black king can do. He's bringing his bishop around. This will be checkmate in one. The knight holds these two squares, the rook holds this rank, and there's just nothing you can really do about it. You can play h5, but h5 is not found. h5, by the way, defended by the rook, and now you can't really play this. Maybe you would need to play bishop e4 to try and get this off again, but then rook h6, it gets a little bit tricky. But Wolfey does not find the correct defense. He plays rook f8. Check is played. Rook f7. Takes with the rook, which is the only way. If you took like this, you would allow some space for the black king. So he takes with the rook, and now it's made in two from this position with rook takes h7, discovered checkmate. An incredible game. If we go to the game review, I think the accuracy is 93%, although it's 94.2. I think that's just because of the queen blunder. He didn't really make any other bad moves. He made the one blunder, which was the queen blunder, which we can see here, and that's kind of it. That's the only real mistake he made. You could maybe say that playing the Ponziani was a mistake. It's not the theoretically best opening with the white pieces, but it's still theory, and it's still got good ideas, of course. But yeah, this 11th move is the only mistake that he played in the game. He played perfectly otherwise. There were some moves that he didn't play the top engine move, but some engines just think differently than other engines. You know, if you give this game to another engine, it might think it's 100% accuracy. But he played an incredible game here, and I think people were definitely right to think he was cheating. I think he was. And now we can kind of read what he had to say on Twitter. So on Twitter, Dr. Lupo had this to say. Regarding Chess.com PogChamps tourney, had a ton of fun playing, but have decided to drop out of the event to help maintain competitive integrity for those involved, as well as the tourney organizers. Having the main stream up on my left monitor over the course of the day to watch other games being played led to me getting move information that I shouldn't have got for the game. That's on me and no one else. That's my fuck up. I apologize. You'd think I would know better, but here we are. I'm not the apology police. I'm just going to say I don't think it's a good apology. You can think whatever you want about it. I think it's a very half-assed apology. I think he clearly doesn't care about the integrity of chess. I think he just thought that it was... People saw it. People definitely knew that he was cheating, and he thought that he had to say something about it. I think it's a bad apology. That's all I'm going to say about it. But we'll move on to something else that possibly annoyed me more than the apology. Now, I'm going to cover up all of the Discord names that are in this link. I couldn't really find this tweet for myself, but this is a tweet of Danny Wrench saying, "Yes, I am watching you, Dr. Lupo, and I couldn't be more proud." Now, this isn't in regard to Dr. Lupo coming out and admitting that he was cheating, but after Dr. Lupo won. And I feel like Danny Wrench is an international master. He's like a fantastic chess player, and Dr. Lupo is 600 elo. If he actually watched the game, I feel like he should have realized. I feel like everyone else realized that watched the game live that Dr. Lupo was not playing legitimately. I just don't see how the CEO of chess.com, who is also an international master, the second highest honor you can get in chess, didn't see that and thought, okay, I'm going to tweet about it and congratulate him. And to follow that, just 10 minutes ago, chess.com tweeted from their official account, "Dr. Lupo has been closed for a fair play violation that occurred during today's PogChamps event. He will be replaced in the consolation bracket before the start of tomorrow's round. We wish everyone the best tomorrow and remind them that receiving any help during a match is a violation of our fair play policy and will result in a disqualification and account closure." So chess.com did make the right decision in the end, but just super weird circumstances all around. It's just a bad look on chess.com as a whole, and I think it's quite telling about this PogChamps tournament in general. This has never happened before, and it's quite clear that chess.com invited streamers that didn't care about chess whatsoever. There are so many other negative things to say about this PogChamps tournament as well, but I feel I shouldn't go on about them because not only are they abundantly clear, but it's just a really disappointing situation in general. If we're going to take away anything good from this though, it's that Wolfey is now my new GOAT, and I really hope that he wins the tournament from here on out. Other than that, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this situation, and I'll see you all in the next video.